everybody's really got to find what works best for them.
Well, it's called a personal object, David. It can be music, it can be a piece of jewelry, it can be a photograph. But there you are in your dressing room and you're looking at the photograph and you're feeling the necklace he gave you and you're listening with your earphones to the music. You have all of these tools that can get you into the character and get you away from the world, so you're just in this void, in this place. The zone, that's what I call it. You go to the zone. And then there's this thing called as if. Now, I had to kill Jesus Garcia. Have you ever heard of him, Jesus Garcia? He used to be called Nick Corey. He had that. Anyway, he's been in many, 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 many films with Mel. What's his name? Mel. The Australian actor, Mel.
Mel Gibson?
Yeah. He did a famous film with him. He was in Along Came.
I know, I feel it. It's like right the back away.
Oh, he's been in so many films. And I did a film with him that Roger Corman produced called In the Heat of Passion. It was the most successful erotic thriller Corman ever made in his career of over 600 films or whatnot. And it was so erotic, I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I put it in my contract that I would get to cast the man that I was going to be so erotic with. And I picked Jesus because he was like my best friend.
Yeah.
I thought if I have to do all of, or have you do all of this stuff to me, it's got to be that we're going to laugh about it. I'm
right.
So I have to kill him in the film. And it was so hard because I loved him in real life. Right. And I killed him in the face. The bullet went in here and the blood was streaming down his face. And I went and vomited in the bathroom after.
Oh.
I had a reason to bring this up. Oh, yeah. As if I saw a child. Okay, I'm reversing it.
Yeah.
I had to be the killer. But I've been killed a lot in my life. Let me get this straight, Sally. As if I had seen a child. Okay. As if I had seen a little baby slaughtered. And I had that rage that I would kill that person that was doing that to that baby. So that's an as if. Then you have the emotional recall. Then you have the personal objects. With all of these things, you're doing method acting.
Yeah. Well, I'm just intersecting here because I studied with Corey Allen.
Yeah.
For years. I was his assistant, and then we
really
some plays.
Wow.
He's like the grandfather I never met.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, his real name was Alan Cohen, and that was my grandparents' name was Cohen. So I listening to you and Corey, I think passed it was, I lose track of time, 7-8 years ago now.
Right.
But listening to you is like a glorious connection. This feeling of familiarity that I have missed and longed for. So I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, honey. Yeah, he was amazing. A lot of my friends went with him, studied with him.
Yeah.
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 Amazing.
So it's what you're talking about. It's like, it's like this. It's like it shows what a brilliant teacher you are, because you're just, again, I use the word amoeba, and it's just, you flow with it. You just go with life. Sometimes I say life for me is like a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. And how do you find balance in your life?
Well, like I said, every day I meditate, I chant, I use a Sanskrit chant called Anai-Q. Anai, A-N-I, means empathy for all souls, and Hu is a Sanskrit word for God. So it sounds like this. Anai-Hu. Anai-Hu. And even 3 times with that. And then I call on the light, dear Father, Mother, God. We ask just now for the light of the Holy Spirit the light of Jesus Christ, the mystical traveler consciousness, and the preceptor consciousness to surround, fill, and protect myself and all I'm going to be with for our highest good. And Lord, as an actor in this movie, I pray that I will bring truth to the role so that those in the audience will feel their heart and feel their soul and feel their truth. And I asked to put the director in the light and the other actors in the light, et cetera, and so forth. I just did a movie 3 weeks ago with Eric Roberts and a young man named, oh, come on, Sally. He stars in a daytime series called The Bay that won 15 Emmys.
Okay.
Why can't I think of his name?
It'll come. It'll come.
Anyway,
Yeah.
put them in the light. I put Gregory Martin, the director, in the light. I always call in the light for the environment, the room, everybody in it, that no negative entities can be there, that is all filled with light for the highest good of all concerned.
Now, here's, I know you mentioned Jesus, you mentioned, now, what about those who are of different religions? How would you bring it, how would they find their own? Would they use substitute or?
In the movement of, in the church of the movement of spiritual inner awareness, my church since 1973, Christ sits at the head of the church, but it's a non-denominational church that invites people from all spiritual paths, Buddha, Allah, Jehovah, Lao Tzu, you name it.
Yeah.
John Rogers has written over 40 books, and one was based on Buddha's teachings, and one was based on Lao Tzu's teachings. And there's a place for everyone. The president of the church was brought up Jewish. The president of the Los Angeles Ministerial Board, which I'm on, is Jewish. You know, it's like there's a lot of people from different paths who've ended up in a group of non-joiners. We are a group of non-joiners. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
We're not a religion. Let's be real clear. Because I was shell-shocked when my father did that. I did not want to be a part of churchianity ever again.
Right.
And I say every day on my live stream, no matter what race, creed, color, religion, circumstance, situation, sexual preference, let there be equality, let there be the end of social injustice, let there be the end of systemic racism. I mean, that's a given every day. I say that when I call in the light on my live stream, Reverend Sally Kirkland, Share Spirit. And
I truly see how, I mean, to have such a richness in your life. You have your meditation, your church, and your acting, and there's so much of you. I mean, there's so much. I'm like, I have all these different questions that I want to ask you. I know we have a limited time.
It's okay. Let me look. You can go longer.
A little longer. One of the questions, and jumping back to the acting, this is a question from a student. I have the ability to do emotionality. I can get there. I can then release it and be okay. But one thing I have trouble with is my lines. I stress out about the lines. Oh my God, this is a monologue. How do you deal with something like that?
Yeah, you remember Actor's Nightmare, the play, Actor's Nightmare? I have that nightmare a lot, that I can't remember my lines. I produced myself in Twelfth Night by Shakespeare, and I'm deaf in this ear, the left ear, and I have tinnitus in the right ear from an accident when I was 10. And sometimes I always say to the director, put me on the left side of the actor, or have the actor in front of me. Don't ever put me on the right side.
Yeah.
Like when I was playing Helen of Troy and Lois Smith was playing Andromache, I think. And give me a sec. Porbitos? No. Giroux. Jean Giroux. It was a play about Helen of Troy, and maybe her name was Zimmerman. Oh, well, it was way back in the 60s.
Hmm.
And I had brown hair then, so they sprayed my hair gold, and they had this beautiful gown on, and they put me on a pedestal. And Andromache, was that her name? Anyway, Lois Smith was on my left, which was a mistake. And I was directed by Andre Gregory to look out. And there was this long ass pause. And I kept thinking, what's going on? Is it my line? And I finally looked, and they were all looking at me, everybody on stage. And I realized that, of course, it was my line, and they were on my deaf ear. And so I finally came in with my line, but that was my first accident. But then in 12th Night, as the producer, I was off stage, and suddenly the stage is bare, and I'm thinking, what's going on? Where are the actors? What's going on? And I thought, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I forgot to go on stage. I was horrified. Lee Strasberg was in the audience. Roger Corman was in the audience. And so what did I do? I decided I would do a private moment. Lee Strasberg, a private moment. So I went on stage and I did To Be or Not to Be in pantomime. And then finally an actor came on stage and saved me, the guy who was supposed to be my boyfriend in 12th Night. And the play went on. Thank God. I was out there for the longest time doing To Be or Not to Be in pantomime. And after the whole play was over, Lee Strasberg and Roger Corman said, oh, that was fabulous, Sally. And particularly that moment when you were alone on stage and you were acting out, but not talking. And I thought, now, isn't that interesting? I was, with all of my heart and soul, I was trying to do something that would be entertaining without doing Shakespeare's words, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And then Lee Strasberg asked me if I would do it at the Marilyn Monroe Theater, which he was opening in West Hollywood, as their first production. I said I would be honored, Lee. And he said, can I co-produce with you? I thought, Lee Strasberg is asking me if he can co-produce with me. Yes. So that's my story about forgetting lines. I mean, we all do it sometime.
It's human.
It's human, and you improvise, you do what you can. It's hard to improvise Shakespeare, but I just finished playing Portia this week on what are we doing today? On Zoom.
Right.
With Ian Buchanan, who stars in The Bold and the Beautiful, playing Brutus.
Yeah.
And it was so, I got down into my Anna voice. My name is Anna Rokova. I come from Prague, Czechoslovakia. What you want? I don't want to talk about my personal life. You give me the script. So it was that voice doing Portia.
Yeah.
And I had so much fun. But anyway, to answer your question, I don't know one actor who hasn't forgotten their lines at some point.
I think the thing too is not to beat yourself up so much. And
oh, yes.
And I noticed one thing for me, that when I really am in the moment, sometimes the line slips out because you're so there.
Yeah. 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 I relate. Oh God, all the actors. I'll give you two quickies.
Yeah.
One, I was playing Isadora Duncan in Cambridge, Massachusetts at the Club 47, famous place. And it was called John Dos Passos, USA. And Joan Baez was singing 4 nights a week. And the other 3 nights I was starring in this play. I'd just gotten out of high school. And I was in high heels and a 20s flapper dress. And here I am, Isadora Duncan. And my heel went into a hole in the floor. And suddenly I couldn't get my shoe out and I was stuck. So I just stood there for the whole play. And none of the other actors could figure out what I was doing, but I couldn't move. My shoe was underneath the stage or the heel. And so eventually they figured out something happened to Sally's foot. So they all came to me to do the scenes. Instead of me going off stage and coming back, each one would come to me. And then another funny thing that happened was maybe not so funny. in Summer Stock, David O. Selznick's son, Danny Selznick, was directing me in Anna Christie. And again, this is back when I'm like 18, 19 at the most. And I'm playing Anna, and I had worshiped Greta Garbo. So I was channeling Greta Garbo. And there I am doing my lines. And suddenly I feel this clunk on my back, and the set had fallen on me.
No.
And pretty soon there was blood. And can't remember, it was on my arm, coming down my legs. And the other actor who was on stage with me looked at me like, Sally, get off the stage. What are you doing? How could I get off? The damn thing was on top of me, but there was blood. And I just kept on going because I had always been told the show must go on no matter what. The show must go on. And so I figured, well, I didn't feel any pain and I was fine doing my lines. Eventually the stage manager came, and he and somebody else pulled the set back, and I finished the scene and I left the stage. But those are the kinds of things that happened when I was quite young and did not want to stop the show, no matter what.
It's gorgeous. Again, I could ask you about Andy Warhol, and
Well, go for it.
Go for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Andy Warhol. What comes to your mind?
Well,
he was your first director, right?
What?
He was your first director?
Not really, but I'll explain it. My mother in the 50s was the first person to put Andy's designs of his shoes in the pages of Life magazine. And then they would show a little photograph of an actor from one of his underground films. And so they were best buds. I didn't know him at the time. But later in the 60s, and she would go with him to Studio 54. He had a crush on her. And then she introduced me to him. And I want to say it was 65. I thought it was 64, but recently I read it might have been 65. And so he took me to lunch, and he had a recorder and a camera. And he said, do you mind if I record? And I said, Andy, I don't want to hurt your feelings because you're Andy Warhol. Now, mind you, Andy Warhol in 65 wasn't as big as the world knew Andy Warhol. But still, in the underground world, he was a happening. I, of course, being a Lee Strasberg student, considered myself a very overground actor. So I just was, what's the word? I was not impressed with his actors. They were all, no one was trained.
Yeah.
And I had trained since I was 18. And so he said, oh, I said, well, it's just that your actors are underground actors and I'm an overground actor. I've studied with Lee Strasberg since I was 18, and I've performed off Broadway, and I don't think I fit in somehow with your people, although I admire you so much and I love your art. I was a painter. I started painting when I was like 12 and went to 3 art schools. And even now, if you go to sallykirkland.com with capitals, you can find my art.
I saw, and that's your art above your head there on your wall.
Frida Kahlo, yeah. Anyway, Andy was very understanding. And he said, can I take your picture? And I said, no. Oh, I can't believe in retrospect that I did this, but I did it. And he said, oh, I understand. He said, I love your mother. And I said, I know she's put you on the pages of Life and this and that. And I so respect what you're doing. I just, I'm the actor studio, Andy. And he said, oh, no, I understand. And he said, well, would you do one thing for me? Would you sit on a chair and allow me and Gerard Malanga to film you for a matter of seconds or a minute? And but I don't want you to move. I don't want you to act. And I said, but Andy, I'm a Lee Strasberg trained actor. I can't just do nothing. And he said, well, I just want you, it's called 13 Most Beautiful Women. I just want you to sit there and do nothing. So finally, Gerard Malanga could interpret Andy for me. And he said, Sally, don't worry about it. I'll be there. Um, you know, it's Andy's way of having you in his world. It won't take long. So I said yes. And I sat there and I did an emotional recall. And the tears started up in my eyes and started coming down my face. But wouldn't you know, the way they shot it, they had no lights on me. So my hair, which was very brown and there was a lot of hair, covered my eyes. You couldn't see that I was crying. Dennis Hopper said the same thing about his 13 Most Beautiful Men. Um, he did an emotional recall, but I think you saw his eyes because he didn't have a lot of hair like me. But so yeah, it was 64, 5, maybe 65. I had been already in films in New York and directed by Joe Papp and Midsummer Night's Dream in 1960. So why I ever said in an interview that that was my first directing, I don't know. It wasn't my first directing, but it was certainly my first bigger than life directing. And then he went on to say, Sally, I want you to be in my first happening. And so my birthday is Saturday. I want you and Gerard Malanga to come out of a 15-foot cake and do the twist. And I said, okay, can I wear my eeny weeny bikini? And he said, yes. And so Mick Jagger had agreed to sing I Can't Get No Satisfaction.
Right.
And we were all very excited because we wanted to be with Mick. And it gets to be the day, and we're all at a photographer's studio, and they built this huge cake. And Gerard and I would climb up the stairs to get to the top of the cake. And then we would go into the twist. I had been a Peppermint Lounge twister professionally, being paid for it. So I knew all about the twist. My first movie was Hey, Let's Twist. And I put baby oil all over my body and my mother's fake jewelry, Ken Scott jewelry. So when I started twisting, the jewelry went flying through the air. And Mick Jagger never did show up. He said he had a conflict with business. So we played his music. And Andy was there clapping. And we all sang happy birthday. And the next day in the New York Times, Enid Neby, Enidnmy, the first happening by Andy Warhol happened last night. Sally Kirkland and Gerard Malanga came out of a cake and did the twist and whatever. So there you go.
Your stories are
There's more, but it's already.
Well, to end off the interview, I have a question that Corey Allen would ask at the beginning of his workshops every week. And the question is, what do you want the most at this moment in your life?
God realization. God realization. I want to go home to God having completed all my karma, so I don't have to reincarnate in human pain. Is that selfish?
Not at all. It's good. And selfishness, sometimes we think that being selfish is a bad thing, but it's not. It's a good thing. I've learned that.
Yeah. Well, David, you're such a great audience.
Well, I'm, like I said, raw, breathtaking. You're gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And I look forward to seeing you when we get out of quarantine.
Yeah. And I'm going to go to a studio, right? And we're going to be sitting there together.
I'd love it.
You have a place, right, where you do your interviews?
We have Performing Arts Studio West in Inglewood. We have over 100 students with and without disabilities, and we're all family there.
Well, they would understand me being half deaf, right? I'm deaf here and I only hear half of this here. So I relate. It's funny now with all the masks, I'm really deaf. I'm so used to reading people's lips that now I say, what did you say? Now I'm looking at your mouth. But just as recently as last night, I was so embarrassed. I kept saying over and over again, can you spell that word? Oh my God. I've tried hearing aids 3 or 4 times and I've just not had an easy time of it.
Yeah, my mom's the same way. She just she takes her hearing aids out. I don't want to wear them. She doesn't like them.
I like your mom. Yeah. And she's 95?
95 on Tuesday.
I'll give her my birthday wishes.
I will. I will.
Glorious.
Take
Okay.
care of you and sending love.
Oh, sending love back to you. God bless you.
You too.
Bye.